World War I, often called the Great War, was a conflict that fundamentally altered the world. Fought from 1914 to 1918, this war involved many of the world's greatest powers and reshaped global politics, economics, and societies. But how did it start, and what were its lasting effects? In this video, we'll explore the causes, key battles, soldiers' and civilians' experiences, and the enduring legacy of World War I. Causes of World War I, the spark and the buildup, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The immediate cause of World War I was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary on June 28, 1914, by a Bosnian Serb nationalist. This event set off a chain reaction that led to war, but Europe had been a powder keg of nationalism, imperialism, and militarism for years. Austria-Hungary used the assassination as a pretext to confront Serbia. When Serbia's response to Austria-Hungary's ultimatum was deemed inadequate, Austria-Hungary declared war, and the alliances pulled the rest of Europe into the conflict. The alliance system. Europe in the early 20th century was divided into two major alliance systems: the Triple Entente, which included France, Russia, and Britain, and the Triple Alliance consisting of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. These alliances were supposed to provide security by creating a balance of power, but they instead drew more nations into the war. When Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, Russia mobilized in defense. Germany declared war on Russia, and soon much of Europe and their global colonies were at war. Nationalism, imperialism, and militarism. The assassination and alliances were immediate causes, but deeper roots lay in rivalries between Europe's powers. Nationalism pushed ethnic groups toward independence, while imperialism intensified competition for colonies. Militarism fueled arms races, and countries stockpiled advanced weapons, creating an atmosphere primed for conflict. Trench warfare and life on the front lines, the horrors of trench warfare. When war broke out, many believed it would end quickly. Instead, it became a drawn-out conflict, with trench warfare on the Western Front becoming the norm. Soldiers faced horrific conditions, constant danger from artillery and gas attacks, unsanitary conditions, and diseases like trench foot. The psychological toll was immense, leading to what we now call PTSD. Despite the horrors, soldiers fought on, with battles often resulting in little territorial gain. New technology and deadly innovations. World War I introduced industrialized warfare, making it one of the deadliest conflicts in history. Machine guns made frontal assaults almost suicidal. Poison gas, such as chlorine and mustard gas, caused severe injuries. Tanks, introduced in 1916, broke through enemy lines and foreshadowed future mechanized warfare. No man's land. Between opposing trenches lay no man's land, a dangerous expanse filled with barbed wire, craters, and the bodies of fallen soldiers. Soldiers often charged across this deadly zone, facing machine guns and artillery, leading to heavy casualties. The role of propaganda. Posters and media were powerful tools during World War I. Governments used propaganda to maintain morale and encourage enlistment. Iconic posters like Britain's "Your Country Needs You" helped recruit soldiers. The media, controlled by the government, emphasized victories and minimized defeats. The demonization of the enemy was another key aspect of wartime propaganda. Germans were portrayed as barbaric Huns, while Germans depicted the British as imperialist aggressors. This demonization fueled hatred and made peace negotiations difficult. Key battles of World War I. The Battle of the Somme. The Battle of the Somme, which took place from July to November 1916, aimed to relieve pressure on the French at Verdun and break German lines. On the first day alone, the British suffered 60,000 casualties. By the end of the battle, over 1 million soldiers had died or were wounded, with very little territorial gain. The Battle of Verdun. From February to December 1916, Verdun became a brutal war of attrition. The Germans aimed to bleed France white while the French, under General Pétain, defended with the resolute motto, "They shall not pass." Both sides suffered heavy casualties, over 700,000 by the battle's end. The Gallipoli Campaign. In 1915, the Allies attempted to seize the Dardanelles Strait to force the Ottoman Empire out of the war. However, the campaign failed and the Allies suffered heavy casualties. The bravery of Anzac troops left a lasting legacy, especially in Australia and New Zealand. The role of colonial troops. European powers relied on their colonies for troops and resources. Indian soldiers fought on multiple fronts, and African troops served in key battles. Despite their contributions, these soldiers were often treated as second-class citizens. Post-war impact on colonies. Colonial soldiers returned with a desire for independence. In India, leaders like Gandhi used the war effort to argue for self-rule, while in Africa, the division of former German colonies sparked future independence movements. The impact of World War I on civilians, home front struggles. Civilians faced food shortages and rationing. In Germany, the British blockade caused widespread hunger during the turnip winter of 1916 to 1917. In France and Belgium, civilians were displaced as their towns were destroyed. The role of women. World War I saw women enter the workforce in large numbers, filling roles left by men who went to fight. Women worked in munitions factories and served as nurses, which advanced women's rights, particularly in Britain and the US. Refugees and displacement. The war created a massive refugee crisis, especially in Eastern Europe. The Armenian genocide in the Ottoman Empire led to the forced deportation and mass murder of over 1 million Armenians. Spy networks. World War I saw the rise of modern espionage. Spies like Mata Hari were executed for their roles in enemy intelligence, and British Room 40 successfully intercepted and deciphered German communications, including the Zimmermann telegram. Code breaking and cryptography. Code breaking became crucial. The British cracked the Zimmermann telegram, a secret message from Germany proposing an alliance with Mexico, helping to bring the United States into the war. The role of new weapons and technology. Aircraft and dogfights. Aircraft were initially used for reconnaissance, but soon fighter planes engaged in dogfights. German ace Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron, became a national hero, credited with 80 air victories. Tanks and groundbreaking innovations. Tanks made their debut in World War I. While early models were slow, they represented a significant innovation in breaking through enemy lines. Chemical warfare. Chemical weapons were first used in 1915 with chlorine gas causing devastating injuries. Both sides developed more deadly gases, and gas masks became standard equipment for soldiers. The end of World War I, the Treaty of Versailles. Armistice Day, the ceasefire of 1918. On November 11, 1918, the armistice was signed, ending 4 years of bloodshed. By 1918, Germany was exhausted, and the entry of the United States tipped the balance in favor of the Allies. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, imposed harsh penalties on Germany, including reparations and the loss of territory. Germany's economic collapse contributed to the rise of Adolf Hitler and World War II. The Treaty of Versailles also established the League of Nations to maintain peace. However, the League had no military power and failed to prevent future conflicts. Its shortcomings led to the creation of the United Nations after World War II. Financing the war: how the world paid for World War I. World War I was extremely costly, with countries spending billions to fund the war effort. The total cost is estimated to have been around $200 billion in 1918 dollars. War bonds and loans. Countries sold war bonds to citizens to finance the war. Governments also borrowed heavily from banks, and the United States lent billions to the Allies. Taxes and inflation. Countries raised taxes to fund the war, but massive borrowing led to inflation. In Germany, this resulted in hyperinflation in the early 1920s, worsening economic conditions. The legacy of World War I. The lost generation. World War I deeply scarred an entire generation of soldiers known as the lost generation. Many survivors struggled with reintegrating into society, haunted by the memories of war. This disillusionment found expression in literature, art, and philosophy. Writers like Ernest Hemingway and Erich Maria Remarque captured the futility and devastation of war in novels like A Farewell to Arms and All Quiet on the Western Front. In the arts, movements like Dadaism emerged, reflecting the chaos and rejection of traditional values spurred by the war. Political consequences. World War I dramatically altered the political map of Europe. The Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, Russian, and German empires collapsed, leading to the creation of new nations such as Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia. The war also played a crucial role in the Russian Revolution, leading to the establishment of the Soviet Union. The reshaping of Europe laid the foundation for future conflicts, as new borders often ignored ethnic and religious divisions. Veterans and memorials. Millions of soldiers returned home physically and mentally scarred. Governments were often slow to provide adequate support for veterans, leaving many struggling with unemployment and poverty. Nations built memorials like the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier to honor those who died, and commemorative days like Armistice Day became important rituals for mourning the loss of a generation. Conclusion and summary of World War I. World War I was a conflict of unprecedented scale, reshaping political landscapes and leaving lasting scars on soldiers, civilians, and societies. The collapse of empires, the rise of new nations, and the seeds of future conflict, including the rise of fascism and the onset of World War II, all stemmed from the devastation of the Great War. The Treaty of Versailles, while aiming for peace, imposed harsh penalties on Germany that contributed to future instability. The League of Nations, though well-intentioned, failed to prevent another global conflict. The war's cultural, political, and economic consequences shaped the 20th century, with its lessons about unchecked nationalism, militarism, and imperialism remaining relevant today. World War I, despite the hope that it would be the war to end all wars, instead became a reminder of the devastating cost of global conflict, forever changing the course of history. Its legacy serves as a stark warning of the dangers of unchecked nationalism and militarism. As we reflect on the past, we are reminded of the importance of diplomacy, unity, and understanding to ensure such devastation is never repeated, and to work toward a more peaceful and cooperative future for all generations to come, where conflicts can be resolved through dialogue. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more content like this. Let us know your thoughts on World War I in the comments, and check the description for more resources.